Hey kiddos, this is a recording of the lesson that we had anticipated having yesterday. But I do want to keep on course for our pacing. So today it's just going to be a recorded style. Obviously, if you have questions, bring them with you to class. We will touch on this the next time we meet, but I wanted to cover this today. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about percent of a number. Now, this is a skill that we're building on this week. We're starting with specifically just finding the percent of a number. And then when we meet next time, we're going to talk about how to find a percent of a number when given the percent and the answer, how to find percent of a number when given the starting number and the answer to find the percent. So starting with the percent of a number, remember that percent means out of 100. So that's really important to start with. And because percent means out of 100, the first thing we're going to do is write our percent as a decimal. So if we're starting with the question like 30% of 400, couple of things to take note of. First, 30% means 30 out of 100, right? Percent means out of 100. Now, if our percent is over 100, let's say this was 300%, we would still write it over 100. It just means we have more than all of it. So 300% would be 300 over 100. But for today's purposes, 30%, 30 over 100. The word of tells us to multiply. So far we have 30 over 100, which is our percentage, and we're going to times it by 400. Now, to make it a little bit easier, though, we're going to take that fraction, we're going to write it as a decimal. Remember, 30% is 30 over 100, or 30 hundredths. Now that we have this set up, now we can figure out the percent of the number. So we're looking for 30% of 400, and we're going to do that by multiplying. Remember, we're multiplying by a decimal. Any zeros in the front are just decorations, so we can drop them. We do not need to multiply them out. And we're multiplying this like 400 times 30. When we do 400 times 30, again, dropping that starting zero in the front, we get 12000, specifically saying that without place value because that's not our final answer. We need to put our decimal back in. Once we go back up to our question, we see that we have 2 digits behind the decimal place. So we need to make sure that our answer, it reflects that. And we also have 2 digits behind the decimal place. Final answer, 120. Obviously, as always, celebrate your successes. Remember that when we're learning math, we are going to make a ton of mistakes. That's how our brain learns. So we need to take a moment to celebrate our successes because they are important as well. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to go through some samples that you would have had in class, but the difference is I'm not going to give you that actual wait time. What I'm going to ask you to do is when you get to the question, go ahead, pause this video. I want you to solve these. And then when you're ready, unpause, and I'm going to go over the answers. Okay. So again, at this point, I'm going to ask you to pause the video, answer the questions to the best of your ability. And then when you're ready to hear me go over these, go ahead and unpause. Pause. You should be paused. Okay. At this point, I'm going to go over the answers. So if you are not ready to hear this, please pause. So to find our percentage, first one, we have 60% of 30. So 60% of 30. First step is to get this percentage as a decimal. So 60% is 60 out of 100, or 60 hundredths. Of tells us to multiply. We're going to multiply this by 30. Again, 60%, 60 out of 100, or 60 hundredths. Multiplying these together, 60 hundredths and 30. I'm going to put the 30 on top, and I'm going to put my 60 on the bottom. Remember those zeros in the front? I could drop them. I'm going to multiply this like 30 times 60. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 3 is 0. Placeholder. 0 times 6 is 0. 6 and 3 is 18. Add them up. 2 decimals in my question, 2 decimals in my answer. I could also say 18. So 60% of 30 is 18. Our second question we looked at is 70% of 170. So breaking it down, 70%, 70 over 100, 70 hundredths. This is my hundredths place. I need my last digit in the place value that says its name. Of means multiply, and the number we're looking for is 170. So again, I'm doing 70 hundredths times 170. I'm going to write it up. I can drop that 0 in the front. It's just decoration. 0 times 0 is 0. 0 times 7 is 0. 0 times 0, or 0 times 1 is 0. Placeholder, 0, 49. 7 and 1 is 7. Add 4 is 11. Add them up. Again, if I have 2 digits in my question, I need to have 2 digits in my answer. 70% of 170 is 119. That's our first set. I'm going to take you over to our next set. Again, pause the video here once you have the questions. Come back when you're ready to see your answer. So pause. At this point, I'm going to go over the answers. If you're not ready, pause me. 10% of 10. 10% or 10 out of 100 or 10 hundredths. Of means times. 10 is 10. I'm going to write this in a way that works better for my multiplication. 0, 0, space saver. 0, 1, add. 2 digits in my question, 2 digits in my answer. 10% of 10 is 1. Second question is 90% of 110. A couple of things to make note of here. If I am getting close to 100%, my number should be close to what I'm multiplying by. So just kind of a quick check. If I'm doing 90% of 110, I expect my answer to be closer to 110. Let's say I did 90% of 110, I got 9. My brain should flag that as an error and I need to take another look, okay? Remember to ask yourself, does my answer make sense? So 90%, 90 out of 100, 90 hundredths times 110, okay? Decimal times my number, 110 times 90 hundredths, dropping that front 0 because it's decoration. 0, 0, 0, place saver, 0. 9 and 1 is 9. 9 and 1 is 9. Add it up. 2 decimals, 2 decimals. 110, 90% would be 99. This makes sense. These values are pretty close. So when I ask myself, does this make sense? Absolutely. All right, new set. Go ahead and pause me. Pause me until you are ready to talk about these. Pause me. All right, starting with 80% of 10. 80%, 80 hundredths of 10. Again, 80%, that's more than half. So I know from the start that my answer is going to be more than 5, right? At the very least, my answer is going to be more than 5 because it's over 50%. So we're going to do, let's keep it consistent, 10 times 80 hundredths. 0, 0, place saver. 0, 8. Add them up. 2 decimals in my question, 2 decimals in my answer. 80% of 10 is 8. 80% of 10 is 8. 16% of 75. 16% is a pretty small amount. So I don't expect to be getting 50 or 60 or a larger amount of that 75. 60%, or I'm sorry, 16%. 16 out of 100, 16 hundredths. Of means multiply, 75. My decimal times my number. So 75 times 16. 6 times 5 is 30. 6 times 7 is 42. Add 3 is 45. Place saver. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 7 is 7. I'm adding up my 450 and my 750, which gives me 1,200, but not really. 2 decimal places in my question, 2 decimal places in my answer. 16% of 75 is 12. Hopefully at this point you're feeling a little bit more confident about what we're doing. But let's do one more set. Again, you have questions on the homework that you can practice. You can bring your questions to class as well, but I don't want to take this too long, right? Because the point is just to get the feel of it and make sure you feel comfortable. So 60% of 90, 60 over 100 times 90. 60 hundredths times 90. Okay, going to rewrite 90 times 60 hundredths, 0, 0, place saver, 0, 54. Add it up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 90, or I'm sorry, 60% of 90 is 54. Let's do one more. Last one. 68% of 475. 68 out of 100, or 68 hundredths of means multiply 475. I'm going to put these back in a way that is better for my brain. There we go. So 5 and 8 is 40. 8 times 7 is 56. Add 4 is 60. 8 times 4 is 32. Add 6 is 38. And a 0. 6 and 5 is 30. 6 and 7 is 42. Add 3 is 45. 6 and 4 is 24. Add our 4 is 28. 0, 0, 13, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 1 is 3. So 32,300, but not really. Putting my decimal back in. 323 is our answer. Any questions, love bugs? Bring them with you to class.